It's 10 a.m. in Lagos, Nigeria. That means it's time for Business Morning here on Channels Television. You're welcome to relevant and current business conversations. I'm Ini John Mekwa. We start off with what's going on in the oil space. We see that looking at the prices now, that Brent crude futures rose by 3 cents to $93.20 a barrel after settling 0.9% lower on Tuesday, as U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was at $87.41. That's up 10 cents. That's 0.1%. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries has reiterated forecast growth in global oil as demand in 2022 and 2023, citing that major economies were faring better than expected, and that's despite headwinds such as surging inflation. Oil demand will increase by 3.1 million barrels per day this year and by 2.7 million barrels per day next year, 2023, according to OPEC. Our prices were also supported by reports that the United States Biden administration was considering refilling its strategic oil reserve, as well as lower market expectations for a revival of the West's 2015 nuclear deal with Iran. We come to Nigeria now, where the Nigeria Customs Service has increased the official exchange rate it uses to calculate import duties and levies from $409 to $422.30. This translates to a 3.25% increase on all customs charges on goods coming into the country through the airport, seaports, and land borders. The exchange rate is adopted by the NCS for charging duties and levies on imported goods, known as import duty. Meanwhile, the increase has been condemned by many stakeholders, as expected, including importers and agents. This is expected to drive a further increase in the cost of vehicles and other products imported into the country. And I remember a couple of days ago, we did speak to the president of the CIB and the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria on their conference. That conference has started, and we bring you the reports.
The banking sector in 2022 globally is a different playing field, with banks adjusting to trends like cloud migrations, omni-channel strategies, and a greater use of artificial intelligence. The Chartered Institute of Bankers in Nigeria recognizes this and has made this evolution the crux of matters to be discussed at this two-day annual banking and finance conference, the 15th edition, hosted by the Institute.
As the world continues to evolve, the financial services industry will need to explore innovation and reconfigure its business and operating platform. In some cases, it will require making profound changes to succeed in the future.
The World Bank states that in 2022, 64 million adults in Nigeria are unbanked. That's 55% of Nigeria's adult population. And this financial exclusion is rife in rural areas. Delivering his keynote address, the chairman of Union Bank Nigeria PLC underscores the challenges this poses to achieving a truly global banking sector.
Those unbanked Nigerians are not only potential savers and borrowers, but with our help, these are entrepreneurs and founders of the businesses of the future. So to reposition for a global context, we also need to look more inwards.
For President Muhammadu Buhari, represented here by the Minister of Finance, the need for a Nigeria of the future that harnesses its strengths is crucial for national prosperity.
Government will continue to formulate and implement policies that are aimed at promoting self-sustenance in critical areas such as energy, agriculture, health, information technology, and several others. We look forward to the outcome of this conference as input for government policies.
One of the resounding words at today's conference is the word global, thinking globally while acting locally. And while it's not a new word, it's one that has been proposed, a progressive way of ensuring relevance in an ever-changing world. And that is what this conference is about. Stakeholders at today's conference will do well to ensure that President Muhammadu Buhari keeps to his promise of using the outcome of this conference in policy making. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Yeah, we do remember the promises made to us before that conference started. So we'll certainly follow up and see those innovative ways, and especially connecting African countries when it comes to payment system. That's one expectation for that conference. The CIBN conference will be looking forward to the implementation of that. Now, the deployment of innovative and user-friendly renewable energy solutions, particularly for Nigeria's underserved and unserved markets, may be one way to expand the use of renewable energy for more productivity. This comes even more necessary when we look at the GDP report for the second quarter of 2022, released by the National Bureau of Statistics, which showed that Nigeria's electricity sector contracted by 11.48% year-on-year in real terms. This means that the sector saw a loss of 15.4 billion naira from 134.19 recorded in the same period 2021. What are some of the existing strategies or innovative strategies that can be used to boost supply and a contribution from the sector? We have the Acting Chief Executive Director of All On. We have Mr. Afolabi Akinrogunde joining us here in the studio. Good morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, I'll just follow up with a conversation we had yesterday. I know probably you didn't watch the program, but yesterday we talked about the issue of staple crops processing and the issue of economic zones, you know, that we have the Lekki Free Zone, Free Trade Zone and all of that. And then the issue of infrastructure seemed to be a major hurdle. Because one of the reasons why people really want to go into those economic zones is because it's supposed to have everything, the infrastructure. Yes. But infrastructure has remained a challenge. Top on that list, apart from road, is power. So now we see Nigerians looking at alternative sources of energy. But how popular and accessible have this alternative been? Because when we talk about solar, for instance, we talk about how expensive it is to start. How accessible is it, and how popular has it become in Nigeria?
Well, accessibility has improved somewhat. There are really two core levers which need to be moved to make accessibility better. One of those levers is basically private businesses who are doing what they can in that regard. So you have solar companies who are putting in place lease-to-own mechanisms and other sort of policies and other sort of programs to enable people get on that ladder of acquiring this product. You also have some fintechs which are also in the space, which are also providing buy now, pay later schemes to support the acquisition of this program or of this product, because the key challenge really is clear that solar is valuable, solar adds value, especially renewable, but of course 90-something% of that is solar in Nigeria. But the challenge, of course, has always been how do you acquire it because of the costs. So we have those happening. We also have other things, other levers that can be pulled at the macro level, at the governmental level, which can help to reduce the acquisition cost, reduce the cost, with the final people at the end of the day pay for this product. So things like waivers, things like tax credits and what have you, which have been put in place in many other countries, which have helped to add 5, 10, 15% reductions in the total cost of this product, which then makes it a lot easier. If something was supposed to be 100,000 naira, becomes 85,000 naira, or 80,000 naira, it becomes a lot easier for people to get on board. So I think it's going to be a combination of both what these companies are doing of their own accord to enable the acquisition of these products, and also what the government is also doing. And of course, we also have to add to this what some other private companies are doing, like a model which we see now, which is basically no power pay-per-use models. where you have people who you don't need to acquire, because that talent is also how do you acquire. You've mentioned that yourself. You've got companies like Mobile Power Ready, all these companies which are putting in place systems where you just use each time you want this product, come, I give it to you, you use it, you can use it to power your fan, TV, charge your phones, or what have you. So that removes that challenge of acquisition cost. So everybody are in the space looking at creative ways of finding those solutions. But I think it's going to be a combination of what people are doing on their own and what the government can also do to support the ecosystem.
Yeah, okay. So an analysis by the International Renewable Energy Agency indicates that Nigeria's renewable energy capacity increased marginally from 2,154 megawatts in 2021 to 2,150 megawatts. That's from 2,150 to 2,154. That's very marginal, like four. Marginal. But really, what do they mean by an increase in the megawatts available?
Yeah, that's basically the capacity of all the systems put together which are in the country. Of course, it was also key to also note when talking about that 2020 was a unique year.
Yes,
that was when we had COVID and with the attendant supply chain, logistical challenges.
Yes.
Even
but what
increases
it? Is it more people getting involved, more companies, creating the equipment and all of that?
The equipment's coming in country, those equipments being utilized, those equipments being put together, all of that together.
So now that customs is increasing, I don't know if you heard that, increasing, the levies and imports duties, that of course will also, because these things are not being manufactured in Nigeria.
Yes, exactly, because part of our own mandate really is to look at how to support the entire ecosystem. So we have companies in our portfolio, for example, which are assembling these products in country, because it's clear to us that as a country we cannot solve this problem unless we start domesticating some of these value chains in country in Nigeria. So we have Oxano, for example, which is doing that in country. But it's going to be clear to us that we need to also have, as a country, an internally consistent policy around where do we want to go in this direction, and we need to have some coordination, because you have on one hand the Ministry of Finance saying that they are giving IDEX waivers or whatever to companies who are bringing in this equipment into the country, but you also then have the customs, which also has a mandate from the same government to bring in revenue, and you need somebody to make these two parties talk together and say, guys, can we organize and coordinate in a way? So I think we need that strict coordination, that idea of what is the big picture for this entire economy, where do we want to be as a country in terms of percentage of renewable energy, in terms of our own, in terms of the strength of our own system over time. So I think we need that really, because everybody can continue doing what they're doing at my level, at my company's level, at the individual level, but you need somebody to support at the macro level the entire ecosystem.
Yeah, I think you just brought out a point there, which is not new in Nigeria, unfortunately. The customs, they are there, they have their own revenue target, which might be one of the reasons they're increasing, the imports, excise duties and all of that. And then you have the ministry trying to say, okay, well, we want to make it easier for people to bring in this equipment so that there'll be spread. Once there's spread of power and electricity, then you can expect there to be a boom in economic activities, and there'll be an increase in tax payments at the end of the day.
Big picture thinking, but that's really that challenge we continue to have. We need to have, as much as is possible, coordination, because that's really that challenge. We have people working in silos doing their own fantastic work in their own various areas, but sometimes these things bang heads at some level, and we need to sit down and say, as a government, as Nigeria, federal government, state government, various arms of the government, what are you doing? Okay, you want to do this, even at the planning level, you want to do this next year. Okay, what you're doing may have an impact on agriculture, may have an impact on this, and let's find a way to ensure that this becomes a beautiful choir singing melodiously.
Yeah, and another thing I think I picked from your points is domesticating the process, so we don't have to import everything. But I spoke to a manufacturer, someone who, I don't know if to call him a manufacturer, of traveling bags. And he did complain how, as tiny as bolts and nuts are, they have to import it. So what happens to the cottage factories that are supposed to be doing those little things, even if it's just the bolts and nuts, so that we don't have to import? At least that's going to reduce the import bill. Yeah,
of course. You then go back to Ajakuta, you go back to steel, you go back to all the other challenges. So I think, at the end of the day, I think we need to have, hopefully, leaders work in four-year silos. Every 4 years you have to think of coming back into office, and then you don't have more than 8 years. But some of the things we need to do as a country would need pretty much 10, 15, 20-year thinking. So we need to have that leadership that has that level of thinking, that is able to push through these policies, because you also have entrenched interests who are also working and making things difficult. So it's going to be up to that leader, and the leadership that's also very strong, because it's a difficult job, really. I wouldn't want to become the leader of this country.
You don't want to be the president of Nigeria. All right, so one of the current conversations now is transition, energy transition. How real is that to Nigeria? How real is it to Nigeria, in Nigeria?
I think it's becoming clear to everybody that number one starting point is that energy is becoming precious. It's clear to everybody that energy is becoming precious. If we were producing 3,000 megawatts, 3,000 megawatts, 3 gigawatts 20 years ago or 15 years ago, and we're still on that path, and our population has added 15, 20 million over that time, we're all sharing from that same pool. So it's clear to us that number one thing is really that energy is scarcer, and it's clear now that people are becoming a lot more aware of this fact. So you see a lot more energy efficient bulbs around, because everybody's getting it. Because part of the energy transition is actually the energy that you have. How do you use it a lot more intelligently? So people are now saying, no, rather than having these 60-watt bulbs that's going to 3x my power bill, let me buy something better. And so people are beginning to get on that journey. But I think it's going to be both a realization of how non-adherence to what is coming is going to hit people in their pockets.
What is coming?
No, in terms of the energy transition.
Okay. So is it really coming in Nigeria?
It is. It's going to come eventually. I won't say whether it's going. It won't be 10 now. It won't be 20 years. It won't be 15 years. But it's definitely coming, because climate change is clear. Everything is changing around us, and it's going to be clear that we need to really start to change how we do things. But the critical thing for us is going to be, we've got a 20, 30, 40-year head start as a country. We've got all of these resources. What do we do to maximize all of these resources that we have? I'm not one of those that say that, destroy all the oil and gas. It's clear to us now. You were discussing Russia a few minutes ago, that yes, you still need oil and gas. Europe is at risk of a cold winter. So what do we do to maximize the oil and gas that we have, while still putting a leg? Saudi Arabia produces 10x more oil and gas more oil than we produce. They have a leg in this future. So how do we, while maximizing what we have, oil, and then gas is a transition fuel, let us optimize 1 BCF that we're exporting, make that 1.5, make that 2 BCF. Let's also put in 500 million scoff a BCF into the country, so that we can then maximize this. Because you can wake up 40 years time, they say oil, don't use oil again, or don't use gas again, 50 years time. Or there can be an invention that may then make solar or renewables much more cost competitive. So it's up to us to say, we have 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Let us maximize, but we're not even having that conversation here.
Exactly.
When I joined the energy industry 20 years ago, Nigeria was producing 2 million barrels, 2-point-something million barrels. Today it's 1 million.
We didn't even do a million last month.
We didn't even do a million last month.
We didn't do a million last month. That's why Angola has overtaken Nigeria as the biggest producer on the continent. So, I mean, that's another conversation. Yeah. So, I guess that even if Nigerians as individuals now will not embrace the transition because of climate change, I guess they will embrace it because of economic reasons, as you said.
Definitely.
It reduces mostly your bills and...
Yeah, like I was telling the MD of one of the discos a year and a half ago, all you need is for solar costs, is for solar battery costs and everything to reduce by 50 to 60%, and you don't have a business again. That's all you need.
That was harsh.
Yeah. So the same
and
way
it can reduce if we're producing it here.
Yeah, it won't get that far, but we can make significant reductions. Yes.
Yeah, at least we can do a part of it. Yeah. in the country. We wait for those days. Thank you so much, Mr. Afolabi Akinrogunde, Acting Chief Executive Officer of All On, and we are with you in this transition, because it's for a better world.
Amen. Thank you.
All right, so let's take a break now. After the break, we head to AFEX Commodity Exchange and find out how they traded last week. That's after the break. This is Business Morning on Channels Television.
this will not work no easy. Yes.
It's AFEX time here in Business Morning, and we're going to see the details of activities on the AFEX exchange for the week ended the 12th of September. And I noticed before now that there's red dominating that summary. But we have Einaya Ukomadu joining us from Abuja studio. He's an analyst in strategy and corporate finance for AFEX. Hi, Einaya. Good morning. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Great. So let's have the details of trading for the weekend at the 12th of September.
Okay, thank you. Over the course of the week, we saw a decline in the turnover value of about 90.55%, moving from 1.27 billion to close the week at 0.12 billion. Well, the value of contracts traded also saw a decline of about 76.76%, moving from just over 3 million contracts to close the week at 379,000 contracts. While also the number of deals saw a marginal decline of about 0.46%. Moving from just 219 deals to close the week at 218 deals. The ACI, which is the AFEX Commodities Index, remained unchanged at 459.07 naira, while the AFEX Export Index experienced a marginal increase of about 0.93% to close the week at 188.72 naira. Moving on to the value of contracts, we saw a rise in the volume of contracts. We saw a rise in the volume of paddy rice, moving from 82,447 contracts to 293,743 contracts. While the volume of cocoa also saw an increase from 1,109 contracts to close at 1,352 contracts. And while the other commodities under review experienced a decline. Moving on to the price changes on the exchange for the week, we saw a rise in the price of maize, representing 5.95%, gaining 11.51 naira to close the week at 205 naira. While paddy rice also saw an increase of about 2.61%, showing an increase of 6.81 naira to close the week at 267.62 naira. All other commodities on the exchange remained unchanged in price.
All right, Inaya, thank you so much.
For more information,
go ahead.
For more information on commodities, you can always check out our page at AFEX Nigeria, and also our social media handle at AFEX Nigeria and COMEX by AFEX.
All right, Inaya, thank you so much for that information. All right, so still staying on AFEX, we've been talking a whole lot about cashew in recent times, started with the federal government promising to boost production, and now the industry is filled with rich potentials, and over the years, we've had remarkable growth in that industry. However, there will need to be ways to move the market internationally. How can the public and the private sector help this to happen? And what are the trends and market forecasts to expect in the African cashew industry, saying that they had this conversation a couple of days ago in Abuja? Well, joining us to elaborate on this is Debajoti Bhattacharya. He is the Vice President Commercials with AFEX. Good morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Bhattacharya, for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me here.
So cashew is catching a lot of attention now, but from your perspective, what's the overview of the Nigerian cashew market, and what would you say are the main challenges that the industry faces at this time?
So the Nigeria cashew market has been growing. The crop has been growing positively over the last, let's say, 7 to 8 years. At a base point of, let's say, 10 years back, where we were producing barely 130, 140,000 tons. We are now producing close to 260,000 tons. So I would definitely commend the federal government and all of the other agencies who have been able to take part in this. But now we still need to go much more forward to probably raise the production of commodities to maybe 500,000 tons of cashew for the much needed foreign exchange that's facing a challenge in the country currently. The second side of the equation is that there's a lot of lack of infrastructure at the farm gate, which means we are seeing investments happening closer to cities, closer to towns, but lack of quality infrastructure, quality storage, quality solutions of pricing at the farm gate level is something that we need to work on. AFEX is definitely working on that. We are producing and currently providing 140 warehouses across 26 states, but we would like to triple that in the next coming couple of years to come even close to where we need to be. The second challenge is definitely the lack of finance, which is available to both the processing industries as well as the local value chapter players who would definitely need these loans and need these subsidies at probably a lower cost of working capital, so that they are enabled to add more value addition to the Nigerian cashew space. And finally, coming into it is the lack of information and the lack of data points which the market has regarding the Nigerian cashew production. So while everybody is sort of aware of the areas where cashew is being grown, there are definite points of improvement where we can go through to the international market by creating a national brand for a Nigerian cashew production. And that's what we are trying to create together.
Yeah, so you're also suggesting that the private and the public sector should be working together to boost this productivity. In what ways, really?
Also, absolutely. I mean, without the public sector's intervention and improvement, whatever a private sector enterprise does can only be a small contribution. So we would definitely encourage the government to come up with certain more initiatives to enable the processors to come deeper into the market, come in more integrated into the market. The private sector, like AFEX, can help them with risk management solutions by guaranteeing them a price of the commodity as well as quality of the commodity over longer term periods. So while the cashew is a seasonal industry, which means the crop is being produced for 3 to 4 months in a year, with our infrastructure facilities, with our logistics facilities, we can probably guarantee quality and delivery for a longer time period, probably 8 to 9 months as of this period. And we would definitely like to increase that to probably 12 months in the coming years, where a processor has a guaranteed throughput coming through his factory to make sure that he's processing the right quality at the right price for our international buyers. If the private sector can enable this working capital conversion happening to the processors at a lower cost of interest, making sure that the logistics and the port issues are resolved, I think we can really add value to the Nigerian economy.
So what are the trends and market forecasts for not just Nigeria now, but looking at the continent, the African cashew industry?
So it's a very positive sign. In fact, in the latest conference, we have been hearing news that the growth of African kernels going to the US and Europe has been over 6% in the past years, which means just to meet up the demand, the cashew crop needs to be growing at least 6% every year, not looking at losses in storage and losses during transport. The other side of the equation is that this extra value addition and extra income that comes back to Nigeria also adds us in giving more jobs. It also adds us in providing better value to the farmers who are ultimately planting this cashew. And that further encourages more development and faster growth of the product in this country. We definitely want to be a cashew powerhouse in Nigeria. And I think if we can align together in terms of policies, in terms of facilities, in terms of risk management solutions, I think we are on the right track.
Well, it will certainly do Nigeria a lot of good, especially in these days when we need foreign exchange in the country. We have to thank you so much, Mr. Debajoti Basachaya, Vice President Commercials with AFEX. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here.
Well, we'll move to another market now, leaving the AFEX markets. It's the market that Will loves to report, and she's here. Hi, Will. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, the equities market yesterday was flat but positive. Were you happy? That's what I'd say. At least mixed sentiments prevailed in the equities market yesterday. We saw losses in FCMB, which was down about 3%, and FBN Holdings down 0.5% yesterday. Those two stocks upset the gains that we saw in Lafarge and dragged the all-share index down further. Well, more like let's stay on the flat line, but still in positive territory, and rest settling at 49,627 points. Market cap is still at 26.7 trillion naira. Month-to-date loss and year-to-date return remained unchanged yesterday. Year-to-date still at 16.2%, and the month-to-date loss is still at 0.4%. Now, we saw total volume of transactions yesterday jump about 85% yesterday to 160 million units, and volume value, it was just a sea of green yesterday. 1.45 billion naira traded in over 3,800 deals. We saw Zenith Bank being the most traded stock by volume. Even at intraday, it was the most traded stock by volume. It ended the day still up. 26.7 million units of its shares were traded yesterday at 536.65 million naira. Now, when we look at the sectors, this was where we saw some, downers. Industrial goods was the only gainer yesterday, up 1.4%. Banking sector still dragged down. Consumer goods down. Insurance, oil and gas still remaining unchanged from what it closed on Friday. The movement in that sector is not very, very significant, and so the figures that it closed with was not significant enough to pull it to the positive or negative. Now we move to the fixed income space, where we saw bullish sentiment still persisting in that counter. We saw demand for the 2026 paper there, and that dragged that yield down very, very significantly. Mixed sentiments are still around the short end of the curve. Average yield was stagnated about 12.9% yesterday, and overall yields, the overall average yields closed at 10.36%. Now, benchmark, the average yield contracted. It fell, as I mentioned, at the 2026 paper because of demand for this paper. Now, the fixed, we'll move on to the treasury bills, where bullish sentiment is still there. There's still a downtrend in yields, and it's closed slightly bullish, as I mentioned. But Ajibola Aero Phillips is our expert from FBN Quest, is the head FX trader. He's going to give us an insight what is going on the fixed income space. Hi, Ajibola. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Hi. How are you doing, Will? Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you, Ajibola. We're seeing some bullish, sentiments persisting in the fixed income market. Is this a trend that's going to be sustained? Is it temporary? What's going on in the market? Why are we seeing a drop in yields? It's like from the 2 digits we've been seeing to 1 single digit figures now.
Okay. Yes, that's a recent trend. Well, in the last week or two, that's been a recent trend, and that's just because of the pending liquidity in the market. Market is slightly liquid. There's been some inflows into the market, and one of it was cash call from the JVs, and then we expect another coupon payment on Nigeria 51s today. So that's making market a little bit more, a little bit liquid, and then because of that, investors are just looking to grab what they have at the auction, whether it's today's NTB, and then in the secondary market generally. So people just trying to invest, take advantage of the double digits that were there prior to now, and then that has just generally driven down rates across the board.
But you're talking about the NTB auction, which is slated to hold today. So investors, can you give us a clearer picture of what we should expect from it? Are we seeing a downtrend in yields at the auction, or is it going to be up since the secondary market is going down?
Frankly, I think we would stay at the same levels. If at all anything, I think the DMO will want to maintain this rate level that we have. So I don't expect, even though the secondary market is slightly down, but I mean, our amount on offer is would play a huge part in that. So I don't expect that we would see a trend down significantly. If you have to ask me personally, I think the rates might just maintain at the rates at the way it printed the last time, which was 5.5 for the short end, 5.85 for median, and then 10% on the long end. So my sentiment is it will probably maintain at those similar levels, not necessarily a huge drop.
So what's your outlook? Inflation numbers are expected this week. What's your outlook? What do you think, Ajibola, is going to happen?
Yeah, so for that, again, there's the bond auction on Monday as well. And then I don't know if you've been following, for the bond auction, the DMO took out the 2042 maturity and replaced it with the 2027, which is a shorter maturity. And that, that's caused a bit of rally in the market, and driven down rates generally just because, people are trying to buy, you having the sentiment that you're going to be bidding at for 42s, and then all of a sudden you realizing that it's not going to be at the auction. So, people just tend to generally pick up what it is that they have available. So that trend is going to continue just because of the prevailing liquidity. But again, by the time CR debit comes around on Thursday, prior to the AFEX auction, you see that most of that liquidity will go away, and then we'll be back to high double digits again by the next week.
Thank you so much, Ajibola Eru-Phillips, for your insight. Ajibola Eru-Phillips is head FX trading at FBN Quest Merchant Bank. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your thoughts with us. So we move over to the NASD markets, where it's closed with bullish sentiments yesterday. It always seems to be following the equities market. When the equities market is down, it's down. But yesterday, the equities market closed flat, but in positive territory. Same as the NASD, it was flat, but 0.01% up, and it's added about ₦1 million about 15 million naira to the market cap. It was not a lot. The index was at 746.43 points, and the market cap settled at 982 billion naira, but it was up 0.02%. Quite different. The marginal index movement was quite different for the index and the market cap. We saw volume yesterday slightly down. We were not a slight, we're really down, significantly down from what we had on Tuesday, and of what we had on Monday. And then we had 4.56 million units of shares traded, also down, and all in 11 deals. So the NASD market is not really performing as expected, but we will possibly get more insights on what's going on there on Saturday, maybe, when we have an analyst to talk about what's really driving sentiment in that space. And in the fixed income market, yesterday, before I go advance, we had AfriLand Properties, which was up 10%. As the gainer, it added, it closed at ₦1.21 yesterday. It was a strong one. There was no decline in yesterday's trading session. And so the NASD market is performing as it should, but we're hoping that...
But not as much as expected, because we're not back to our 1 trillion.
Not back to the 1 trillion where we, not only settle down and have
place of comfort.
Yes, where we're comfortable, but we're not yet there. So we're struggling to get there. I think they're taking a breather. Maybe some stocks are struggling, economic situations, and then they'll probably get back up there when the cost of operations probably drop.
All right, thank you so much, Will. We'll see you at 1:30 for Business Incorporated. All right, let's take a break. We have other markets for you, and of course, we'll start with London. That's after the break. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television. Head straight to London now and find out what's going on there. Hi, Juliana. Good morning. Juliana, I don't know. I saw that inflation has slowed in the UK to 9.9%, but that doesn't mean that you can heave a sigh of relief when it comes to food prices. So, I mean, it sounds like a contradiction on the face value.
Good morning, Annie. Yeah, a pretty surprising data released this morning by the Office for National Statistics, showing that inflation had dipped from 10.1% in July to 9.9% in the month of August. I think anybody living in the UK wouldn't notice that 0.2% drop. Things are still incredibly expensive, especially if you consider that the Bank of England benchmark rate for inflation in this country is 2%. But, we've got to take good news where we can. So this slight drop is good, especially if you go back, and it's pretty hard to think before the Queen, BQ, if you go back, BQ, Liz Truss, the Prime Minister, did outline this new energy price plan. And we know that one of the reasons why inflation is so significantly high in the UK, much higher than any other comparable economy, is because of the Ofgem energy regulator and the increase in energy bills. bills. Now that that is going to be capped at a maximum of £2,500 a year, that should hopefully push down inflation even further. We won't see that knock in until about October and November. But this is good news, and we've got to take it as it is. Tomorrow should have been the Monetary Policy Committee gathering in Threadneedle Street for interest rates. Because of Her Majesty's passing, that's going to take place next week, Thursday. So hopefully the hike in interest rates, coupled with this, on top of that, the energy price plan, the new energy price plan, should start seeing things feel like how it used to feel, because it is still hard. And it just goes to show the news agenda in this country is incredibly powerful, more powerful than anywhere else in the world, because you would think there isn't an energy crisis and a cost of living crisis in the UK, because, of course, all attention and all focus is on the Queen. Government business is closed at the moment.
Yes, I can see that. I was watching the BBC last night. I saw the movement of the coffin and the streets, not just streets, the roads in the rain. Everyone was just there. Everybody just wanted to catch a glimpse on it. And we know the lying in state, people are already queued, waiting for that. So I'm thinking, what's going on with the businesses, especially the small businesses, the shops, along all of those routes? What's going on with them?
Yes, so Her Majesty, the late Her Majesty, the Queen's line in state in Westminster Hall begins today at 5 p.m. and some mourners have been queuing for 72 hours. I just heard, just before I came into the studio, that the wait is going to be 30 hours, Innie. 30 hours, and we're expecting over 1 million people to try and wait. The funeral is going to be taking place on Monday, which is going to be a bank holiday Monday, the 19th of September. And there is a little bit of outrage, I've got to tell you, some outrage on social media, because so many businesses will be closed. In fact, holiday parks are going to be closed. There's one pretty popular luxury holiday park in the UK called Centre Parks, and they said they're closing their doors. They're going to be kicking out families on a Sunday, and you can come back in a Tuesday. And there's outrage as to, where are we going to go if we've booked this holiday? John Lewis, the luxury department stores, Selfridges, Waitrose, Tesco's, Marks and Spencer, all will be closed. Some online delivery will not be being delivered. And of course, we understand they are doing it out of respect for the Queen, but people still need to eat. People still need to get about. It is going to be a bank holiday. Anybody who is a parent knows that children do like to munch and munch and munch. The shops are not going to be open and there won't be any deliveries. So I think balance is important, and that's another discussion taking place in Britain at the moment. Of course, we mourn Her late Majesty, but things do have to run. And I think amongst Republicans and non-royalists, there's a growing sense of anger that the country wants to close its doors when people still need to carry out their business as usual. But there will be no balance, just to make it clear, because the establishment is very much pro-monarchy and pro-doing whatever they can to make sure that this funeral goes out without a hitch.
Yeah, Juliana, because I'm looking at the visuals here, and I'm thinking even the people who are on the street are going to get hungry at some point, are going to get thirsty at some point. So you might really need those shops, those, especially the small shops.
I think people are being asked to take provisions, Innie. People are being asked to take provisions. In fact, I was speaking to Amarachi on The World Today yesterday afternoon, and I was talking about this because it is airport-style security. If you go in with anything that you can't take, you won't get it back. But, there's a full list of what you should take, what you should do. The Brits do love to queue. Order is very much part of British culture. So if you are going to take if you're going to do the 30 hours, I possibly will be doing it. You will know exactly what to take, what to do. So I think you will be fed. You're not homeless. You're just going to pay the tribute.
All right, Juliana, thank you so much. I know we're going to have a whole lot more conversations on this, especially you're going to be doing this much more with Amarachi and the foreign desk guys, because this is you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you at 1:30.
Talk to you then. Thanks, Innie.
All right, so now let's go to the other market left for the show, and that's the crypto market. Yesterday, we had the Fair Greed Index in its 30s, and I was getting a bit excited, but I think I did warn myself not to get too excited or not to hope too much, because today the Fair Greed Index is at 27. Yeah, there is back down to the 20s for this morning. So it's very unstable, very uncertain. We know this market is normally very volatile, but at this period of economic headwinds, it's really taking a deep blue. And then we go to the market cap for today, and we see that it's lost that 1 trillion that it had for some days now. I think it started on Thursday, Friday, we had 1 trillion, but now it's back to $995.95 billion, even though in 24 hours it's up, but we know that it lost that 1 trillion. 24-hour volume is at 98.37, up 8.19, and BTC dominance is up 1.15. That's in 24 hours, but not as strong as it will be. And then, well, the other one is that the price of Bitcoin, we know that it had been in 22 for a bit, but guess what? It's now 20,257.83. Doesn't seem like we're moving out of this 20s. I don't even know if we're going to sustain this 20s. I mean, going from 22 to 20, just like that. And then in 24-hour volume is $49.064 billion. The price of Ethereum is also up. At 1,611.18, and its 24-hour volume is 23,068. We have Rume Ofi now to come and help us calm our nerves and see if we expect further downtrend. Hi, Rume, good morning.
Good morning, Ini. Good morning. Good morning.
You know, Rume, I was getting excited when I saw Bitcoin at 20 and then 21 and 22, and it held it for, I think, over 24 hours. I was hoping at least we'll be going up from there. Now we are back to 20.
Exactly. In fact, I was telling those in my community some 4 days ago, even before the dump, that this is more or less like a trap. You can see what is going on. It as a result of the pullback from the dollar index that saw the market actually go to that level that we saw it. Some persons were even saying now that we have seen the bottom and we're going up. And yesterday, something very bad happened, you know. The whole stock market, although I was talking to someone yesterday, the stock market in the U.S. actually lost about 3 times more than the GDP of our country at some point. So crazy, though. Affected the crypto market. And we lost about 9% in Bitcoin. And that is to say the less. A lot is happening, and we should brace up for this economic tsunami that is coming. This is not to put fear on anybody. It's an opportunity to buy more if you have the funds. But the truth is, be very careful. Don't get yourself involved in using the money you need for basic things, rent and all of that, to get into riskier assets, because everyone is going to. A stronger dollar only means that cryptocurrencies are going to see down. And this morning, the news coming out from the Luna Gate issue is becoming something else. You know, the Luna cryptocurrency headed by Duquan is being issued an arrest warrant by the government of South Korea over there, and it is sending shockwave again to the market. You know, and let's not forget Canada, the Prime Minister there, Justin Trudeau, and the newly elected Conservative Party leader, Perel, is actually coming out to say people should involve themselves in Bitcoin, that it has a capitalization of a fixed value of 21 million, which is correct. But the Prime Minister there is saying that is a bad economic advice, and it's been front and back. So all of these backlash are going to have some things to do with the price, and is sending shockwave to the market. So please, if you can't handle such riskier asset, please, it is better you stay away for now.
Yeah, Rumi, I think I like what you said, that people should not use their rents and what they're supposed to use for school fees, to think, oh, I can just get into the market and make it double and before I use it for the expenses.
Exactly.
Please.
Exactly. We don't want to hear issue of suicide and all, trading riskier assets from, so I think it's good we send that message out so that everybody becomes really careful. But we'll see it down very soon, so investors will come, so retailers can also buy the bottom and we smile again. But for now, it is good we advise people to stay and be careful. The mental health is very important. Thank you very much.
Very important, Rume. Financial health is also very important, Rume. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right, so that's it on the program today. This is where to draw the curtains, but at 1:30, we will be back. Will Ibong will be here to give you update from the world of business. I will see you tomorrow. No, I'll see you first for the stock market reports, later on for the news at 10, and then I'll see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Let's make it a date. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Have a great day ahead.